Good evening. I will call the meeting to order at this time. If you will, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I will ask Councilman Barber if he will lead us in the invocation, please.
Dear Lord, we're so thankful to have this opportunity that we can come as a town and we can gather together to do the town's business. We thank you, Lord, for all those who commit themselves to be involved, not just the councilmen, Lord, but the citizens who spend their time to show up to help support the council. We thank you, Lord, for all the opportunities that we have. We thank you, Lord, for our town and how it's a town and not a city because people care about each other. We thank you, Lord, for that. Now we pray that you again guide us as we go through and we look at all the materials we have to cover tonight, that everything we do be uplifting and be glorifying to your name. For it's in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, gentlemen, you have the agenda in front of you. I would like to add one presentation to tonight's agenda. I'm not aware of any other changes to the agenda. If not, I will entertain a motion to.
Mayor, we got an email about the lawn care. Do we need to discuss that tonight?
I don't think so. No.
What?
What was another email came out late today?
I didn't get that. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I make a motion we accept the agenda as amended.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. All right. All right, so our first and only presentation this evening is a proclamation that I am most honored to read this evening for Professional Municipal Clerks Week. Whereas in 1984 and 1994, Presidents Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton respectively signed a proclamation officially declaring Professional Municipal Clerks Week for the first full week of May. And whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world. And whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants. And whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing body, and agencies of government at multiple levels. And whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. Whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center of functions of local government and the community. Whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerk. Shannon. Be it resolved that I, Andy Moore, Mayor of the Town of Smithfield, along with the Smithfield Town Council, do hereby proclaim the week of May 1st through May the 7th, 2022, to be Professional Municipal Clerks Week. Shannon, I just want to personally say, and I think I speak on behalf of the board, but obviously your comments are welcome as well, council. But I can honestly say that I've been doing this on this board for quite a while, and you are a very, very valuable asset, not only to this board, but to our entire community. You do so much more above and beyond what is in your daily job duties. I know just keeping me in line and going to where I need to go and my calendar straight probably takes up most of your time in making sure that I'm where I'm supposed to be on time. But I truly do appreciate it. It takes an individual like yourself to run any successful organization. And I want to say that we, along with the council and the entire staff, Mike, and all the department heads, we have a fine organization here in the town of Smithfield. And I would put our town up against any town in eastern North Carolina and in the state of North Carolina. And Shannon, majority of that is because of the things that you do to hold not only the council in line, but also the staff, and to make sure you're always there to recognize and make sure that individuals within our community, within our staff are recognized. And I just think it's very suiting that we recognize you this evening. And again, we thank you, and I personally thank you for everything that you do. So thank you very much.
Mayor, I hope you didn't make her write that.
Yeah, I didn't, right? I didn't. So thanks to some
Thank you,
else on the town staff who were able to assist with that.
I'm just giving you a
they
hard
were
time.
able to do it. If I would have written it, I would have taken out a few of the whereases.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, if I could say one thing, you know, they always say behind a good man, every good man. Well, there's one for about 9 or 10 of us right there. And so that's how much she means to this town. If you really don't know, it's true. Thank you, Shannon.
Absolutely.
Shannon, thank you for everything you do, because we're a group of misfits sometimes, and it's hard for us to stay in check if it's not for you. So 1 week is not as much time as we need to give you credit for. We usually give you credit every day, and we're very grateful to have you here, and we appreciate everything you do to make our lives much easier. Thank you.
And I'll just say thank you for, you bring light into the room. I mean, that's the truth. Whenever so we appreciate you. Your presence in the room makes a difference. And it's the way you deal with yourself, your professionalism, all the things. And again, like I said, thank goodness that you help us make sure we say what we're supposed to say when we're supposed to say it. But thank you very much. I personally want to say thank you too.
All right, those are the misfits. Now I'm going to talk. I just want to say personally, Shannon, thank you for all you do. I mean, same thing, but definitely coming from District 1, East Smithfield. 2 weeks ago, you was over at the Litter Suite. I know this weekend you helped out with the Andy Jones walk. You're always instrumental in the fun in the park, so definitely everything that you do in these walls and also in the community, so definitely thank you.
All right. Thanks again, Shannon. Thank you, Shannon. All right. We'll move on now to our first public hearing. This is not a quasi-judicial hearing, so there's no need for anyone to be sworn in on this matter. The first public hearing is RZ-22-01 for Roger Stanley. This time I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second. A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Stephen, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you. So Roger Stanley is requesting the rezoning of 2 properties from B3 Highway Entranceway Business to R8 Single, 2 and multifamily residential, R8. The area being requested is 16,000 square feet in area. So the area in yellow here is the proposed rezoning. All the land around it in every direction is B3 zoning. And this sits on Edgerton, about 750 feet back from Brightly Boulevard. It does touch 4 properties. Affects 4 properties. This is all within the town of Smithfield utilities and town proper. So to try to make this understandable, I've numbered the different parcels that are involved. So number 1, if you can read that number on the map, that is the Perfect Ride, the commercial car lot. And you see the house with the yellow roof, highlighted yellow on the map there. That is the subject house that sits on that property that the applicant would like to move down to what is numbered number 4. Okay? So he would like to rezone 3 and 4 to residential and do a recombination of all 4, I think it's all 4 properties to create 2 residential lots of 8,000 square feet each. So it'd be conforming R8 lots from the size perspective, okay? So there'll be if this is approved, there'll be a future recombination to create 2 8,000 square foot residential lots, because both of those lots are non-conforming in size and configuration at this time. Oh, I did want to point out, lot number 4, in its current configuration, has no street frontage. It's sitting on a portion of Edgerton that is private. It's not part of a public street. With the recombination, there'll be, I believe it's roughly 20 feet of frontage, because that lot line will move to the north on the map. Just some pictures. This is the house that is proposed to be moved, and it'll be moved to the far side of the yellow house in the distance in the picture. And there's the yellow house. So beyond that little garage where the pickup truck is parked, that's where the house will go. Okay? So this is the proposed recombination plat that will happen after the rezoning. He will be moving where the existing house is, that he'll be taking part of the perfect ride lot and adding it to this residential lot to make an 8,000 square foot lot, and then be taking a portion of the residential lot that the house sits on and adding it to the most southern lot here, and then adding some acreage on the backside to make an 8,000 square foot lot. So this will be the shape of those 2 lots, should this get approved, and then the recombination that follows, just to be clear. So on the bottom here, the lower of the 2 lots, that house doesn't exist. That'll be the moved house on this location. So from my analysis, this is from the school government suggesting that this could be considered spot zoning. Basically, the determination is whether this is reasonable in the public interest. There's some existing non-conforming situations, so the lots requested for rezoning do not meet the R8 dimensional requirements, lot width or size currently. But as I said, the applicant is planning to recombine the lots after the rezoning is approved, if it's approved, and make them conforming lots. The one thing that would not be conforming would be lot frontage. Although there would be 20 feet of lot frontage after the reconfiguration, the lower of the 2 lots would not have the required 70 feet of lot frontage for a typical lot. And also, the lots don't meet current front yard setbacks. The new lot, when the house is put on it, would have to meet the front setback, but the existing lot that's sitting there with the house does not meet the front yard setback. which is this next slide. So there'll be nonconformities to remain, basically the setback. The comprehensive plan guides these properties for commercial, so this request is not in compliance with the comprehensive plan. Again, here's the location of the property in relationship to the land use around it. It's all commercial land use. Further from Brightleaf Boulevard, that's some, open land area that could be redeveloped. And then you've got the parking lot and the warehouses down by the tracks. So based on the analysis, staff believes the rezoning is not consistent with the comp plan. It would not be consistent with the UDO, and it's not compatible with surrounding land uses. So with that, Planning Board recommended 5-2 in favor of the rezoning. Their justification was that they felt it was reasonable in the public interest because Mr. Stanley's trying to upgrade his business and make better use of his properties. And it was stated that by one member, they didn't think the area would redevelop into anything different. Planning staff is recommending denial. And I do have staff's recommended motion for you to consider. Any questions?
Any questions for the planning director at this time?
I did have a question about the street frontage. Does Edgerton become a private drive at some point, or what was the reason?
I think it really it's a driveway at that point. I believe all of Edgerton was repaved sometime in the past by, I believe, Mr. Stanley and Mr. Blackman, who used to own that warehouse facility. They paved the whole thing. It was a gravel road before that, and I'm not quite sure why the Edgerton name goes all the way down on the private property, but it's just been considered a road for a long time. But if you look at the plat map, it's not platted as a road, so it's not public from that point on.
Any further questions at this time from the council?
Yeah, okay. So on this map right here that you got, can you bring
Yes.
that back up? Now, this is the configuration after, this is what his plans are after his rezoning is to do. Now, you said 70 feet road frontage is the requirement, correct?
70 foot of road frontage is a requirement for a conforming lot.
Okay, so that, I'm saying is, so when he's reconfigured on this map, shows that it's conforming, correct?
It shows he'll have 20, it doesn't show it on this exhibit. He's
Right.
showing he'll have 70 feet of lot, he'll have 70 feet of lot frontage, but only 20 of it is on a street.
Okay, but it's actually on a street, it's just on a private street,
Or a driveway. I'm
or a
not-
driveway, but it's
yeah,
driveway that's paved.
Yeah,
So it's still a 70 foot of frontage, it's just, it's part of it's on a public street, and part of it's on what perhaps is a private street, but I'm assuming that, I don't know whether they can drive on it or not.
yeah, I don't know.
Has any conversations been had with the people who own the private street?
They were notified of the public hearing, but no.
So they really don't have a problem then, or they would say something, you would think.
And the town has an easement to access a cemetery along that route. So, I mean, the town has an easement.
But I'm saying, so other than the 70, the feet that's on the private road, the lot would be in compliance?
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Okay. So if that road was a public road, or even if they had the right-of-way for that road, because you can have your own private driveway, right? It's still road frontage, isn't that correct? Would it still apply?
You can have a private street. This is more, I don't know what you'd call this. Street, driveway? It's hard to say.
It looks the same. I can't tell,
Yeah.
looking at the drawing, that it actually changed.
I don't know.
It looks like it's the same road. I can't tell when it breaks off.
I don't know if it's built to DOT standards, which is.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. It's not going to be something we're going to take on. I understand that. Not a problem. I'm just trying to look at it from a,
Had to point out the access. They'll have 20 feet of public access onto a public street. The rest, the 50 feet, is private. And who has rights to it? It may be rights by use. It's not been explored.
The applicant's here today.
I don't know if the representative, Paul Embler is here.
I didn't know if he might know the answer to that or not. I don't know. I'm just curious when we get to that point, because I'm struggling to see that because the road looks the same to me. I realize technicality, but it looks the same. So it's hard to say that they don't have access to road frontage when they have access to road frontage, just the road frontage is on a private road instead of a public road. I don't see I'm struggling with that. That's what I'm struggling with that. You understand what I'm saying? Because I mean, from looking all practical purposes, everybody looks and say it's the road, they got same road front as the other one does. So I'm just struggling with that.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Mr. Winsman. Mr. Winsman, can you refer to, it's a couple slides past that one. It's the one that's got the hand-drawn.
With the numbers,
Yes,
this one?
yes. Just for the record, can you explain to us where this private street starts?
You see where number 3 is?
Yes.
The green line at the south end of the number 3 there?
Yeah.
That's the end of the right-of-way. Where the little 30, it says 30 in the middle of the street, that's where the actual right-of-way ends.
But it appears, based on what's presented here, that road goes way down further. Is that right?
Yeah, the pavement goes all the way down to the warehouses by the tracks.
Okay. And what does this number 2 represent?
That's another lot owned by Mr. Stanley, and a portion of that number 2 is going to be added to number 4 to create the 8,000 square feet. So it's impacted with the future lot recombination, and therefore part of that is being rezoned as well.
Okay, thank you.
The warehouse that it leads to, is it operational, is it in use now?
It is. It's lost a good number of tenants in the last 6 months. I don't really know what's going on. I think there's only 2 tenants in it right now. But it's a big facility, and at one point, it was nearly full.
So the road's in constant use, so they built the road to get to the warehouse, probably.
Yeah,
Okay. And it's a 2-lane road.
yeah, it's built to a 20-foot wide standard.
And that's Mr. Wilson or Blackman's?
It used to be. It's sold, and I forget the owners. It's in the packet, but
He built the road with Mr. Stanley?
they paved the road. Yes.
Well, he's a builder. I doubt he built himself a shabby road. Himself or construction guy.
So Stephen, you mentioned that the town has an easement to the cemetery back there at the end of Edgerton. So there are other properties, I think the warehouse, are there other properties that are located along this strip as well of Edgerton?
No one's accessing it except for Mr. Stanley and the warehouse facility by the tracks.
The warehouse facility, are we supplying, is the town supplying any utilities to that warehouse?
I do believe we do.
Do we have easements for that, or?
That's a question I can't answer. I know there's a fire hydrant right down by the warehouse facility, but I sort of recall that we didn't have easements to it, but it's hard to say. It took me a long time to find the road easement. It's kind of buried in a deed.
So Ted, I guess that'd be a question for you. At the end of Edgerton, there is a warehouse. Do you know if we're providing electricity, water, and sewer to that warehouse? Are they one of our customers?
They are customers.
So we're servicing them even, right?
Yeah, they're in our circle, yeah.
Right, so if we had to get down there, it's a private road, supposedly. So my question is do we have an easement to go down there, or if not, I mean, we have to, I would think, get down there, police, fire, and utilities. It's supposedly a private road. Just trying to understand what makes it private. I guess you can't find any evidence of it being turned over to the town, but we're providing services to the end of that road, so I'm kind of a bit confused there, I guess. So to your knowledge, we don't have an easement for the utilities? Okay, but we are servicing it? Okay, all right, thank you.
So there's already an existing residence down number 3.
Number 3 is existing. It's zoned B3, but it's a non-conforming residential lot in a business district.
It's all confirmation. So he basically just take the yellow roof, move it down, and square off his lot,
Yeah,
and fix it up,
yep,
sell more cars, sell more taxes
yep.
on the road they build.
Any other questions for the planning department at this time? If not, I'll ask anyone in the audience wishing to speak for or against this matter to please come forward at this time. Mr. Emble, if you will, please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Paul Embler, 11 Kentwood Drive, Smithfield. Mr. Mayor and Council and Madam Clerk, who not only when I was working here, but still to this day keeps me in line. And I appreciate that.
Now she deserves a raise, Mr. Manager.
Get her work cut out for her, I'll promise you that. Mr. Stanley asked me to come and speak to the council tonight. He was not able to be here. But I would like to point out a couple of things which have already been mentioned. I'd just like to accent them a little bit. And I think I may be able to address somewhat the issue of the water and sewer and how it got there. Mr. Stanley wants to, as Mr. Winsman said, wants to take advantage of his property the best he can. He's put about $25,000 in the house already that he wants to move, and then he'd have the cost of the move and the underpinning and stuff that he'd have to add to that. And he's done this just in the last year or so, so he wants to recover his investment there as much as possible. And then he also wanted me to make you aware, and Mr. Winsman again has already mentioned it to you, that he and W.E. Blackman paved the road. They actually petitioned the town council to pave the road, and the town council said no. And it may have been well because of they didn't have an easement the whole way. I don't know, or a right-of-way the whole way. But Mr. Stanley and Mr. Blackman split the cost on paving the road, so that's how the road got paved. As far as the utilities, that was one of my first experiences when I came with the town back in 2003. Actually, the fire inspector called me and said, do you know they're upfitting buildings back on the railroad track? And I said, no, I did not. And by the time we went out there and actually inspected, the water and sewer was already in the ground, and we made him go back to the state and permit it back through the state before we would accept it. I don't know whether there was an easement obtained. I don't know that much. So, and then also as part of that same deal, we got the access to the cemetery at that time because we had no access to the town cemetery at that time. So that's really all I have to say. Mr. Stanley, I'd like you to take him into consideration there and protect his real estate investment as best you can. And he also wanted me to mention the fact that he could work by putting the driveway in on the 20 feet that is there and serve the house with the driveway. That would give him 5 feet off the property line, which is the requirement of the town with the driveway, and then he could go up to a 15-foot, a much wider driveway than he would need, but he would still be able to set back from the property line the correct distance and still get at least a 15-foot driveway in there.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Emler? That address your question?
Yeah,
Mr.
thank you
Barber?
much. I appreciate that. That helped a lot. Exactly what I wanted to know.
Mr.
Thank you,
Emler,
appreciate it.
Hold on one
Mayor.
second, Mr. Embler. Paul, Mr. Embler. I think Councilman Scott, I think, has a question.
Yeah, just for clarification, Mr. Emler, is this intended to be residential when they do move the house?
Yes,
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I want to know.
okay. Any other questions?
I think that's it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak for or against this matter, please come forward. Okay. Not seeing anyone. This time, any other questions from the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. It's the pleasure of the board.
Mayor, I recommend that we approve the zoning amendment RZ 22-01.
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. All right. Thank you, sir. Now we'll move on to our next public hearing. On page 23, I believe, of your agenda package. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so if there's anyone wishing to speak on this matter for or against, please stand now to be sworn in by the clerk. Madam Clerk.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, this public hearing is S-22-02 Floyd's Landing. At this time, I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So move, Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Winsman, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Yes, sir. So Floyd's Landing, if you recall, they had done a master plan with their rezoning, so it's a conditional rezoning to, it's an R8 CZ, which included townhouses, multifamily, and single-family. So they're requesting the preliminary subdivision of the same in accordance with that master plan. And it's just the data, the lots involved, acreage. And here's the map. If you recall, the area in red across from the Amazon there, they elected to not replat that and left that as a commercial property. Just wanted to point that out. It's shown red here outside of the striped yellow area. So this is the preliminary plat. It's really the same as what you guys looked at for the master plan. They've done a good job of meeting the intent of the master plan. They are proposing 3 phases, which again, I'll go back to that map. The phasing is color-coded. The bright yellow is phase 1. Phase 2 is more of a brown color, and the gold is phase 3. You guys following that? So phase 1, they're proposing 47 townhomes, 48 single-family, and 96 apartment units. Phase 2, another 88 lots, townhouse lots, 41 single-family, 144 apartments. And then phase 3, which would be towards the end of 2025, looking at 85 townhouse lots and 120 units of apartments. So note that phases 1 and 2 are prior to the new sewer plant coming online and all that county improvements. So this is going to work in tandem with, I think, Ted's ability to utilize that pump station for, to kind of meter out sewage into the relatively full county lines. So with the preliminary plat, the plat has to be consistent with the rezoning, and it is with one significant change. If you look on the little exhibit, the next page, Ncdot has finalized its design for US 70 business as it pertains to the Floyd Landing development and Amazon. If you recall, Amazon has a a major entrance and then has a truck exit. And DOT is trying to figure out what to do with trucks that want to turn around and go back towards town out to Durwood-Stevenson. And that decision hadn't been completed at the time Amazon was approved, and it wasn't determined when we approved the master plan. And as a result, they are proposing a turnaround, which I'll show you in a minute, in a relocation of one of the driveway, the main access points to this development, and it impacts the berm and buffering behind it. So at the crossover, on that first, on the red area, the red circled area on the left, at the crossover in the highway, DOT is going to put a truck turnaround at that location. That is the location that in the master plan, the north end of this development had access. So this is forcing them to move their primary access on the north. They had 3 access points. It's moving that most northerly access point further south in line with the townhouse development, which is in the other circle shown here in red. And as you can see, that impacts the berm and the landscaping right behind that truck turnaround. And so those are the 2 changes to the plat in response to DOT that is not in accordance with the master plan. Again, really out of the applicant's control. This is DOT's controls their street, and they've been trying to work with these 2 developers to come up with something that works for everybody. And so here's the actual plat map showing those changes. And then this is the relocated entrance as it lines up with the townhouse development further beyond. So a preliminary plat is based on finding a fact for approval. There's 4 finding of facts. Staff finds the subdivision in keeping with those finding of fact. Staff is recommending approval with the same conditions that were in the master plan with a few additional ones. The first one is codifying those deviations from the standard R8 code that were approved with the master plan, just carrying those conditions on forward. We had talked about the trash and roll-offs being stored within garages or rear yards so they don't become a fixture in the front of the street. That was a condition we had before. They had promised decorative street lighting and street signs as part of the development, as part of the amenities, so we're putting that as a condition. Same with a condition about subdivision signs. These are things that were discussed at the previous meeting. They need to provide a complete landscape and buffering plan. There were some landscape requirements that were also approved with that, and they're brought forward. We had a condition about no parking in the townhouse area, so that is carried forward. Then we have some new conditions, there's a couple other ones here, but we have some new conditions, just that park dedications be paid prior to recording the final plat. And also a new one, that an opaque tree and shrub planting be provided behind the truck turnaround with phase 1. So that's a more robust landscaping in lieu of the berm that now has to go away. So we want to make sure that there's a good buffer where the distance got constricted between the street and the rear lots. And then we have all utility fees be paid, then a condition about HOA declarations. And with that, staff recommends approval with the 15 conditions based on the finding of fact for preliminary subdivision. Any questions?
Any questions for Stephen?
Mayor, I have a few comments. And it's really not in order with this business, but I feel that I wish the staff could work close with DOT and this property developer to get this intersection better. That just doesn't look fair. I don't know how much conversation y'all have had, but it seems like to me that before this is built, there could be an intersection put there.
Are you talking about at the crossover where the truck turnaround is?
Why don't they connect the road there that, on their side to make it work? I mean, I know it's out of this developers. It just doesn't seem reasonable to me, but
Yeah, originally they were going to put the truck turnaround in a different location, but, we don't have a lot of control over what DOT decides to do with their highway. We're not as happy with the entrance being moved south because in a sense, it creates a long cul-de-sac for that northern portion of the development. It does branch out and go around, but there's a narrow section there that wouldn't be like that if the entrance was further north. But
So
we have no control over it.
I assume that the DOT is going to take advantage of their domain, so to speak,
That's right.
but that's unreasonable for the property developer in regards to the plans that the town had agreed to him with the buffer. So it's not going to work. I mean, I just think that we need some more conversation about that, working with the DOT to see if we can't help them come up with a better solution.
And to follow on him with Councilman Scott, I come through there in the afternoon sometimes, and traffic is backed up pretty high. I mean, there's a lot of traffic coming down 70 Highway, and now you're gonna have these trucks potentially lining up. If anything's going that way, has gotta go to that turnaround, because
they
there's
gotta-
no other way out.
And they need to cross 2 lanes of traffic to make that turn.
That's right. They got to cross 2 lanes of traffic and then wait. And I don't know, are they going to give us a longer turn lane so that we can stack these trucks before they have to turn left? Or are we going to take up one of our lanes of traffic going that way, going out of town on a Friday afternoon? I just don't understand. I don't understand their philosophy on that. It'd be a whole lot better if they could just leave that parking lot, go across and keep going. I don't understand it, but again, that's DOT, but I would also agree with him that I sure would love for us to have some more conversations with them, and I guess once it becomes operational, they need to be out there, somebody monitoring it, because I know DOT has changed their minds on things before, where they did something that didn't work at all, and then, within a year, they made changes because they realized it didn't work. We know it ain't gonna work before they build it, but I mean, town, I think that we need to be emphasizing something and to be looking at it, because it's not going to be good.
I would be happy to have that conversation with the DOT with your concern as the backing. I am concerned that we hold this developer hostage.
Oh, yeah.
We can, whatever the outcome is, I'm sure they'd be happy to accommodate, but I don't want to hold them hostage personally. So.
Yeah.
No, Mayor, for the record, as I spoke a while ago, perhaps that was out of order in regards to the discussion about that. I don't want that delay. Obviously, those plans can be amended, but I just want to make sure I make that clear.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I have a question regarding the turnaround, though, because I do think it's relevant. The impact to the buffer. Can you explain that a little further?
Yeah, I'll go back to that image. As you recall, there was a planned, this one here. There was a planned berm, with landscaping on, the front and side, and a fence to provide that screening from the highway.
Right.
And there's a good distance here for them to do it. With that turnaround, that's greatly restricted. Let's see if I can.
Comes up to the fence.
No, we don't have the zoom-in computer anymore. I guess the image on the right helps a little bit. But you can see where the trail, there's a trail behind that berm, behind that turnaround. And the trail is almost touching the back of those lots. And so we've got maybe 15 feet between the, 15, 20 feet between the truck turnaround and the trail. And so that's where the more robust landscaping, opaque landscaping is being recommended, as opposed to whatever they were going to plan before, which would be a mix of trees and shrubs. This needs to be more of a solid screen in that area to make up for the fact that we no longer have the berm. It could be a row of conifers, it could be, something planted larger and more robust.
Is that area there, the lots there, is that, what type of lots is that designated?
Those are
for?
single-family lots.
Single family, okay.
Houses in phase one.
So we had a walking trail down there instead of a sidewalk, correct?
That's right.
So is there still a sidewalk there? That's kind of
Yeah.
dangerous.
It's still there, but it moves in towards the rear lots at that location. There will also be a fence, so I imagine the fence will be on the lot side of the trail. So the fence will still be there, the trail will be there, but there'll be some additional landscaping, which of course we haven't seen yet because of this changes.
So you got people walking this way with the trucks coming this way.
Yeah, but there's a separation.
That doesn't look like much separation to me up there. How much separation is there? Because that does not look like much separation at all. It looks almost up to the fence.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of my question.
Yeah.
Right, is that we are taking away some of the landscaping and the berm, and we're also jutting in closer to single-family homes there. So I'm thinking safety, the walking trail and so forth, and that's my question. Because it's very difficult to tell on these images that we have as the amount of space there is.
And I don't
you
have
know,
any
in that one
details
section.
if
right?
there's
Now we're going to have
guardrails.
potentially, I don't know, hundreds of trucks a day, possibly. I mean, I don't have any idea. Making a turn there, we just had a major accident yesterday with an overturned transfer truck, right? So that's sort of my concern with the way this is proposed now. So, yes, sir.
Further discussion, the preliminary plat for Floyd's Landing, I remember we had detailed discussion with the developer, and they actually addressed this buffer at length, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if they're here, but they increased the width of it to get the height somewhat.
Yep.
And I also want to say that this is not an Amazon problem. This is a DOT problem. We're proud of Amazon coming to Smithfield, and, we got to be good neighbors and good stewards, but this is an entrance to our community. So I think this is a very important topic. But back to the order of business, I mean, this is totally out of their control. So, let's move
Yeah, I
forward.
mean, obviously, I don't disagree with that, but doesn't mean that we have to, I'm not saying we should not approve it. I'm just, your point of order is that we don't have to approve it based off of this change, right? But I'm not insinuating that. I'm just asking the question that, that I have, right? But I agree.
So can
I
you
agree,
just point out?
it's not their,
I'm
sorry, I agree that it's out of the developer's control and not Amazon.
So back to this, can you show me the walking trail on that thing up there? So I'm looking at these drawings now that we have extra, and I'm still I see where it's got, it looks like there's a fence. I think I see a fence across here that kind of goes like that. I think that's a fence, or is that the walking trail? That's what I wanted to know.
All right, 1 second.
If that's the walking trail.
You're on
you
now.
can see
You know where the
they got
pointer
the
is?
room there. If there's a fence, it's not.
Yeah, it's not the scale.
I'm going to have to walk over and point to it.
Sure,
We don't have a
absolutely.
pointer here
Zigzag,
anymore.
that's what I was
got
wondering. Is
the-
the walking trail is a
the-
fence?
Is there a handheld?
So then they don't show the fence.
Solid line, the walking trails.
You guys hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know if you can see this. This is the trail. The trail
Okay,
is here. It kind of weaves, and then it comes in by the rear lot, right here, the most restricted. And there's probably, 10, 12 feet between the truck turnaround and the trail where the landscaping would go. Of course, there's no berm anymore. There'd be landscaping, a trail, and then the fence. I
so
don't
the
disagree
dotted
that
line
it's
is the
tight.
fence.
Yeah.
So the dotted line up there is the fence.
I can't say for sure in this exhibit,
Okay.
But they have a fence. And it makes sense that it would be on the lot side of the trail, so I would say that probably is the fence.
Okay. I'll see it then. Okay. Just one other question. I know, again, that's not related to them, but then it is, while we're on it, is there going to be some type of a barrier that they're going to put when they make that turn to prevent somebody from overshooting and running on somebody that's walking on that trail?
Right, I haven't seen anything more than what the developer
Okay.
has shown
But
us.
when you're discussing with them, I just want to,
I agree.
I just want to make sure you guys that they know that it is a walking trail only a few feet from where they turn at.
Exactly. There needs to be some protective barrier.
Some type of something, yep, okay. That's what I want to verify. Had nothing to do with the developer, but,
First, where else can it go? And two, if we can't get any legway on moving it, we need a barrier. But I think it really helps having the council's disapproval
yep.
for this change from my conversation with DOT.
But I understand, let me say from the developer, I understand the developer did what they needed to do for here.
That's
I don't
right.
have any complaints with them. I mean, obviously, you got to deal with the hands that are dealt. And I think that they've done the best they could, what they have.
Yep, they're at the mercy of DOT.
Yep, right.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right. Is the applicant here this evening? If you will, please come forward, sir. If you will, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Joe Faulkner, CE Group, 301 Glenwood Avenue, Suite 220, Raleigh. I can address some of the questions that you have there relative to.
So just real fast, just a matter of business, right? You because this is a quasi-judicial hearing, so
Yes, sir.
I've got some specific questions I need to ask you
Sure.
before you start addressing those, if you do not mind, just for the record. So you heard the testimony that was given by our planning director, correct?
Correct.
And you agree with the testimony that he presented tonight?
Correct.
You have anything to add in
Yes.
addition to that? All right, thank you, sir.
Sorry.
No problem.
In our coordinations with DOT, they did sort of spring this up on us during, at the last minute to a degree. And it's been somewhat amicable with that DOT in working this out, because we don't have, as you said, we are somewhat at their mercy. But we're also looking to work with them to make this to work for all parties involved, Amazon, us, DOT. So the turnaround that we've provided, the turnaround itself, the right-of-way is about 12 feet from the edge of pavement of the turnaround, and I'm doing this somewhat from, we don't have the final design back from DOT relative to that, but the traffic engineer that provided this information is what those dimensions were. We then have got about, there's going to be a ditch section there in order to keep drainage to be able to stay in the Ncdot right-of-way, so that's about another, that fits within that 12 feet of area from the edge of pavement back to the right-of-way, and then I believe it was about 20 feet from the right-of-way then to the rear property lines. And then in that area is where we were placing the fence, there will be a retaining wall on the back lot of the lots, because, one of the things relative to the way the grading worked out in here is we'll have an elevation difference there. We won't have the berm, but we will have like about I think it was 8 to 10 feet elevation difference. And then on top of that, we've got a 6-foot fence. In front of that, then we would have probably some conical evergreens in front of that to help with that buffering, as Mr. Winsman mentioned. And then, one of the reasons we really keep that whole multi-use path is running right along, we sort of gave it a little weave to it, is running right almost along the Ncdot right-of-way, within a few feet of it, and then it comes out. And then we're putting berming in where we can, and where we can't, we've got elevation grade difference from cutting the site, such that you're still getting the
height,
the effect of the berm all along there.
Okay.
Hopefully that. Now, the one thing DOT, let me add, also, agreed to is this. So when you do that turnaround, there will be a right turn lane for our development that'll be continuous from where the bulb turnaround comes all the way down to our entrance. So it is providing a little bit, it's a longer right turn lane than what would be required for our entrance, and I believe it's also a longer right turn transition lane from what DOT needed, is what we understood. I don't know what their plans are for the question, which is a good one that you mentioned about the left turn movement across and the stacking that would be required there.
Okay. Any other questions or any questions for Mr. Faulkner?
Yes,
at
Mayor, I
this
have a
time?
few questions. Joe, thank you for coming tonight.
Sir.
Question to you, does DOT understand what your master plan looks like?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you explain to us and the people that are here tonight, can you go back to this picture?
Yeah.
Maybe, just because it's not on the map, where does the Amazon, Stephen, this is probably for you, where does Amazon currently come out? Is it a right only? Is that what we're faced with while they're having to put this up here? There was some discussion about an additional intersection being here and the potential for that to be B3, some type of development. What happened to that?
I'm not tracking the whole,
Okay, let me be very clear. Where at on this map is Amazon's driveway going to connect?
Joe, you may have to help me, without the detail.
They have two driveways.
Yeah.
That's correct.
This is a ditch, so the Amazon driveway, I believe, is right here, probably right in here. Actually, it's probably lining up with this one.
Okay.
Is that true, right?
I know it lines
No.
up with the first one.
This is the main driveway.
That's correct. That'll be signalized.
Then the truck exit, I believe, lined up with this, but they weren't going to allow crossovers.
Correct.
So they were making the trucks come over here and do this motion to get out to Durwood Stevenson.
Okay, so that's what I don't understand, and perhaps the public don't understand. Why can't they use that main entrance and have a four-way stop there?
Have a left turn. There will be a stop, a four-lane stop here.
Okay, all right, let me ask a different way. Why do they need a truck lane where trucks come out different that can't turn left?
So they can't turn left because they didn't think the crossover would be safe.
If that's a four-way intersection, what's the difference in what's already all over the country?
They're not allowing, I believe there's going to be some modifications to this. Again, I'm not party to all the details at this point, but I believe they weren't allowing the trucks to come out and turn left. And so you can maybe know more than I do, Joe. These cars are going to have to go this way. They can't go across?
So is it true or not true that there is going to be no signal there?
There will be a signal.
But it's at
The main
it's at the main entrance to Amazon.
Not on the truck exit.
Yep, I think the first
And
entrance
you're
is not a
asking
truck
why
entrance.
There's a truck exit there. We weren't involved with the Amazon, the Amazon project, so I don't know the answer to that, other than I do know in the conversations with DOT relative to the location of that turnaround is that they were looking to do that turnaround further down 70, and the issue was, I think they had some sight distance issues. They also had, this was an existing control brake, or an existing median brake, and that the sight distance was good. We originally had discussed with them about this leftover being located really about in this location here, where this entrance is at. And that was sort of what they found, is that it was going to be better for that leftover to be up here where the existing leftover was because of sight distance. And shift the actual entrance into the development further down. That's how things were initially started with DOT. And relative to the TIA that was reviewed and approved.
Do you know roughly the distance from where the truck crossover is to where you moved your entrance to, roughly? Because you said they were going to make that bulb and just kind of extend that into your right turn in. So roughly how long a distance is that?
I think it's about 600, because aren't the intersections about 1,200 apart? The crossovers are around 1,200 apart. So the truck entrance is somewhere in between.
Yeah, that's probably.
Close.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time? So, Mr. Faulkner, just a question not really having to do with this, but there was one property owner there on 70 that was holding out selling, I think on the portion that you were holding off for maybe business or right there. Is that still the case? Have you guys purchased that one section?
Are you talking about yes, that's still the case.
Right, gotcha.
That's
So
the
it's still
case. That is
carved
still
out
not
there
part
for
of-
them.
Yes. As far as any of the retail access for for the properties on our development, it'll all be internal.
Gotcha,
And
okay.
we've got minimum 100-foot stem lengths requirements from DOT off of 70, such that you're not going to have any left turn movements happening for at least 100 feet off of 70.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions at this time? All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter, please come forward at this time. If you will, please state your name and address for the record as well.
My name's Ralph Smith, 306 South Rogers Drive. I'd like to say good evening to the mayor and good evening to the council. My concern was in them building this, what they're going to build, they were supposed to put up a fence or something at the back of the residential facilities that's already there, the residential homes. My concern was when they put that up, how far would that be from the residential homes? And in the process of them doing all this construction back there, it could cause some of the homes to, because these are older homes that's back there, it could cause some damage to the homes. Now, would the Smithfield be liable for the damage that would, cracks or something that came into the people's homes or something like that, or would it be on the people that lived there that had to take care of their homes?
Good question.
I would imagine there's,
Yeah, I would defer
Yeah.
to Bob on that.
I don't think Smithfield would be liable for that. It depends on, if the builder is negligent in constructing it so that it damages your property, you'd have a claim against that builder.
but sir, I'd be happy to share the plans if you want to give me or give the clerk your name and phone number.
Yes.
I'd be happy to show you the plans. I believe the townhouses are going to be about 100 feet away from your property line on that side.
Okay.
And the berm is somewhere 20 feet off the property line. Joe could probably confirm that. So there's going to be a distance, open space, then the berm with landscaping on it, and then some open space, then the rear yards.
So it'd really be hard for you to have damage at 100 feet.
But good question, though.
But if you want to share your name and number with her, I'll call you.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Johnson?
Good evening, council. I apologize to the applicant for not coming to the planning board to the first one, just to not necessarily speak in favor nor against it. I'm a free market capitalist, and I feel like whatever a person wants to do within the rules of this body, they can do with their land. So, but I want to make sure that my statement is put into the public record so that when future residents that live in this area realize that this is an industrial area across 70 as well as adjoining, and that the property owners, which is my wife, who, by the way, the applicant has also purchased it from my wife's cousin, so it's kind of internally family, but I don't know who these 600 people are going to be living here in this area. And so as in the future, as the industrial area grows, that my concerns are noted in the public record, as well as that it backs up against an airport. So the airport's growing. Obviously, the industrial tax base, as this body wants to see, continue to grow. Obviously, that's my role as the county economic developer, but I'm speaking on behalf of the property owner, which is my wife, to make sure that our voices and that whatever rules that are in place today are in place when that site starts getting developed, and that the industrial component is not penalized because of future taxpayers and voters that may be out there. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. How you doing? If you will,
Mayor.
please state your name and address for the record, please.
Phil Lanier, I serve as the airport director at Johnston Regional Airport. Again, as Chris said, I'm not red, I'm not blue, I'm green, pro-aviation. Certainly understand that y'all are in a a tough position when you have to make decisions like this. But if you would, go back to the one that shows the airport close by. The east side of the airport, we've just done a master planning process for the airport. And the east side of the airport is slated for industrial growth, industrial development. So it's definitely, this development, this is, again, not for, not against, just as Chris mentioned, but I do want to make it known that this is the highest density residential development that is in proximity to the airport. It's less than a mile from the airport. That is the flight path, where you see the location of proposed preliminary subdivision. That area parallel to that runway right there, that's the flight pattern. And so aircraft, we operate 24/7. There's medical flights that come out of there. There's cargo flights that come out of there. There's large airships, there's small airships, there's helicopters, there's jets, there's turbines, there's propellers, there's all kinds of activity going on. So again, great stuff. Our community is growing faster than I think it's ever grown. Airport's growing just as fast. In fact, Stephen was there this morning, helping us with our master plan. But aircraft will be flying over this neighborhood at about 500 feet. Councilman Scott will know better than I would.
Should be
I stay on
1,000.
the ground most of the time, about 500 feet or more, until they approach the final approach pattern into runway 21 or runway 3. So again, the east side of the airport here, where the R20A sits on the plan sheet there, that is where we're slated to have industrial growth. So we are looking at our future outlook is to have connectivity to Business 70. Kind of know what that looks like, but we don't have final plans. But again, I would be remiss in not representing the airport, the interests of the tenants, and the future growth of the airport by just letting you know. I will be the person getting all the phone calls from all of these residents at 3 in the morning. And that's okay. That's my job. That's why I'm here. I'm a servant. But it's the main thing is safety. I don't think we have a true airport overlay district. And that is something that is...
We're working on.
It's very important. I know we all have a lot on our plates, but there's not a true airport overlay district. That is it basically looks like a stadium, a sports stadium. As you look to the runway, coming out of the runway, there's all sorts of different heights and zones around an airport that the FAA stipulates. So there's uses for that. For example, you don't want people and property at the end of the runway. That's the critical area. But again, not for or against, but just let it be known. There's an airport less than half a mile, and this entire subdivision is in the aircraft are flying directly over this entire development. So thank you for hearing my comments.
I have a suggestion that might address your concerns, is maybe something in the HOA documents that is an acknowledgement that there's an airport adjacent in whatever language, just to another place where it says you are buying into a development that is adjacent to an airport. I know in the previous town, we had similar requirements for properties that were at the end of the runway.
Mayor, I have a question for Mr. Lanier, just for the record. The yellow hash part there is what we're discussing. Just so the airport property is the neighbor, is that correct?
I believe so, yeah. That looks like the property line that's adjacent there. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question for Mr. Winsman related to this issue. Can you tell the council what that property is currently zoned as? The green space that's the airport property?
It's zoned R20A. Well, the airport's a mix of light industrial and R20A zoning. It grew without being rezoned. And as Mr. Lanier said, their master plan is showing future industrial on the east side of the runways, about where that R20A is labeled. And that would, if that materializes, it would be accessed through Chris's wife's property. They would build a road back to the airport on the backside of the airport. So that's in their master plan, which we just discussed today. And of course, they have, it's very, very big, high-end planning, but that is their wishes for the future. And if they grow and the town grows, all these things may happen.
Mayor, I have one other comment. For Ralph's concern that he spoke about in regards to the buffer, again, I do recall in initial discussions before this board, the developer actually made that bigger, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And I don't think Ralph was aware of that, so I think he does have a valid concern, but I don't think it's going to be an issue based on the facts that we discussed at that meeting.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a question back for the builder, if I could, if he would.
If you will, please come forward, Mr. Falk.
So, sir, having heard the testimony about the airport, were you aware of that information about the airport, about it being,
We were all obviously aware that the airport was there, most certainly. One thing I would say is that there's a pretty large, if I'm not mistaken, Stephen, that light yellow area along there, that's all 100-year floodplain? Is that-
Right.
Yeah. So there's a very large floodplain there that'll be some buffer. Now, I know you still have the overhead noise. I live near RDU. So, I used to live near train tracks. And it's amazing, people would ask me, how in the world can you live next to these train tracks? And I was like, what train? Because after a while, it becomes such a common occurrence, you don't realize it. And I don't, say that in any demeaning way, but that's somewhat how I've seen living in a situation as both. I think being industrialized, I think that's part of the attractiveness of this area, that it's going to be able to hopefully, the thoughts is providing a home for the people working there at Amazon and the other industrial areas nearby, and have retail space also that'll, hopefully serve those same areas.
so the point is, you were, when you designed this or developed this, you understood that it was in the flight path of the airport, and that there would be some air noises and stuff. That's what my question is, because that was what the question was and the concern, because then that's, as you're selling property, I think the concern is that not so much concern about for safety as much as concern about people complaining. And then who's going to get those calls? And the airport's getting the calls, or the town's going to get the calls, or who's going to get the calls? So that's why I'm saying that I just want to make sure that this was something you guys understood when you put this together, that was going to be part of that. And therefore, again, to Mr. Wiesman's point, is that might be something that needs to be included, anything that's said when people purchase the property, so that they are aware, because they may come on a day that there's not a lot of air traffic.
Right.
And I just want to make sure that everybody, if somebody buys a house, I hear people that buys houses near RDU, and then they complain. The airport was all the time, and they complain. Today they buy a house, and it was that way when they went and bought the house. They got no room to complain, but I just want to know that my point was, I wanted to ensure that you and your partners knew when you're building this property exactly what you were getting, and that your people that were purchasing the property knew exactly what they were getting. That's my point.
The one thing I would clarify there is being in a direct flight path, overhead flight path for this. I wouldn't say we were aware of that, because the orientation of the runway itself, you're thinking you're going to be near there, but not, it may be coming directly over, or by the time it does, it's circling around and back at such a height that, you're not being, clipped by the tree, seeing them,
Right.
clipping the trees per se, but yes, knowing that the airport was there, the ownership group is going to is building and will own the apartments that will be built there. Of course, the single-family townhomes will be sold, but their intent is to retain that ownership. So all these things are understood. How you can keep people from complaining, I'm not sure. There's a
Trust me, that's not going to happen.
We just want to make sure that we knew who to complain
Yeah.
to.
I can certainly
That's what's
appreciate,
Yeah.
appreciate your point, most definitely.
Yeah, well, Mr. Faulkner, and I'm not sure if you're planning on actually doing the developing yourself or, you know, having someone else actually develop and sell the properties, but I guess this would be a question for the attorney. Could we make a stipulation as part of this? Again, it's not going to prevent anyone from complaining, probably not going to cut down on the complaints. As a real estate broker, I think the airport there is a material fact, and a real estate broker should have a duty to disclose at the airport, and if they don't know that it's not there, then it's their license that's on the line. So I certainly believe that they have a duty to disclose that as a material fact of selling the property in that general location. With that being said, Bob, could we make it some type of condition that there's a form or something that is at closing to any potential buyer? That is, I don't know that we can put it in the HOA. I don't know what good that's going to do, but at least if there's some type of disclosure at closing, you know, I don't even know if we should do that or not. I'm just asking the
Be willing to
question.
consent.
Yes, I think what we would do is have our counsel consult with Mr. Spence there in crafting any kind of language relative to that.
Is that
I think that's what we would do.
reasonable? I mean, is that a reasonable request?
Rather than trying to draft these conditions into this
Right.
subdivision ordinance.
Right.
Right.
It's more appropriate to zoning ordinance, maybe. Okay.
I'll make sure, I'll have them reach out.
Okay.
Mayor, I have a question for Joe while he's still here. And I always think about weird things sometimes, or things to benefit the community. And I understand the presentation and the comments in relation to the potential future use of the property. My question to you is, what about Phase 6 and go over there and work out a deal and make hangar homes over there and make it a really elaborate community?
Hangar home.
Well, you have your house and you have an airplane
Hang
hangar.
it right in the back.
And that is something that's in North Carolina and is generally on a golf course and it's very valuable.
Carolina Beach has it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There may be some of that in Sanford, actually.
Yeah. But I'm sure Mr. Lanier would love to talk with us about something like that.
Any other questions, Mr. Faulkner, while he's up? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chris, did you have something else to add?
I just wanted to stress that we're not, I'm not opposed to this project. I just want to make sure that whoever's living there is aware that there's industrial, and that's the key thing, and just be on the record for that. And so that as, should my wife's property move forward with industrial, that whatever the rules are set forth for industrial, there's not going to have to be an additional 50-foot setback because I'm up against a residential neighborhood because we've already gone through the rezoning of industrial. So it's been industrial for some time, and that's the only reason why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I agree. But also, just another point, right? And I may say this, and then Mr. Smith may disagree with me, but Rogers Drive is right there, so I'm not sure if that is right in the flight path or not, but I haven't heard any complaints, right? Now, I know the airport's going to possibly, there's a potential that the airport may expand or whatever, but I've not ever heard any complaints. Now Mr. Smith, don't make me a liar up here, right? But I have, I mean, just I haven't had any complaints about the air traffic there, right? So, but understandably, it's a concern, and thank you, gentlemen, for bringing that up. I think it is that as that area does develop, I think it makes sense for more industrial development personally down that way. And so I think obviously it's a good point to be made. So anyone else wishing to speak for or against this matter, please come forward at this time. Okay, not seeing anything. Anything else from the council at this time? All right, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
I move we close.
Second.
We have a motion to close the public hearing and duly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, for further discussion, I feel it would be appropriate that we add a comment in here related to the airport traffic, as he said he would work with council I don't know if that would be condition 16 or not, but there is some other things laid out here for the council's consideration.
Okay. All right, so yeah, there it is. Here. Councilman Scott, is this what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, I think we could add that.
I don't think we have that tonight,
Yeah.
but I think that we could agree to add that if the majority feels that way.
So language being that the applicant work with Bob Spence to create a homeowner disclosure?
Yes,
Notice?
whatever that looks like. And I agree that those HOA documents usually come later unless somebody's done their research. There might not be the appropriate time.
Right.
But I also think it's important for us to make a note to the record. The discussion that come before us tonight is very relevant with, talking to Mr. Smith, I know he's been, I don't know how long he's been a resident there, but I think the point is that the growth and the more
absolutely.
and the more and the more. With that comes change. Of course, that's an uncontrolled airspace, and there is a standard traffic pattern, but if they become a control tower, it would be different, and the flight path is going to change, more than likely. So, we don't have control over that.
All right. All right, so we have the findings of fact are located in your agenda. We can go through those item by item, or we can entertain a motion in the affirmative for the findings of fact. Yes. It's a pleasure of the council there.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Floyd's Landing preliminary plat, S 22-02, with 16 conditions based on the finding of fact for preliminary subdivision.
And the 16th one, Madam Clerk, do you need them to repeat that, or you think, do you have it? You have it, okay. All right, okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve with 16 conditions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Okay. Did you have, as part of your motion, I'm sorry, Mr. Barber, I thought you stated the findings of fact, in agreement with the findings of fact as part of your motion, but I'm not
Yes, sir.
sure. You did, I thought you did. So we covered the findings of fact, okay? All right, so that's, so we have a motion to approve with the findings of fact and the 16 conditions. Is that correct? Okay. Do we need a separate motion on the findings of fact?
I don't think so.
Or can we include it all as one?
You include it all as one, you
Okay.
include that it's consistent.
Okay, gotcha. All right, perfect. All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
just before we move off this topic, now that we're done with that, I just want to make the comment and stress the importance that our staff work with this developer and the DOT. Perhaps we could host a meeting or something to try to discuss that traffic flow. And my real question would be, and we don't have the answer, but observation, that buffer and that berm along that road that we've discussed at length is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And that is challenged with that project. I would say, what would be the potential that the DOT move that south or east or west that would potentially not affect this development? I mean, of course, it could have an impact on other properties, but a lot of that's undeveloped right now.
Yep, correct. Yeah, and Stephen, that definitely, I think, is a concern, and obviously that was my concern, and hence my question as far as the impact there and how it does jut in close to the subdivision itself. So obviously, it's a concern of mine of how it is. So, all right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone. Now we'll move on to citizens' comments. If anyone's wishing to speak during citizens' comments, if you will please come forward at this time. All right, we'll now move on to the consent agenda. Have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, move on to our business items. Our first business item is consideration and request for approval to approve a contract for the construction and design services for the renovation for the new amphitheater. Gary?
Hey, Mayor and Council, thank you for having us tonight. As you know, we've discussed the renovation of the new amphitheater over the last 4 to 5 years. We did a conceptual drawing. It was in our master plan to do something with that, and we did a conceptual drawing in 2018 with the help of the Visitors Bureau. We discussed several times the cost and funding and that kind of thing. Fast forward to this year, with the help of our local state legislators, we received a SCIF grant in the amount of $989,500. And I apologize for there's a numerical typo in the staff report, but the number that we're dealing with is $989,500. Staff opted to go with a design-build process. We put together a request for qualifications and advertised those. We received 2 responses with the first advertisement. We re-advertised with the hopes of getting at least 3. We did not. We received 2, one from Balfour Beatty with McAdams as their designer, and then the other one was from J.M. Thompson, and McGill and Associates was their designer. After evaluating using a scoring system prescribed in the RFQ, staff unanimously selected Balfour Beatty and McAdams' team for the design-build process. Bill and Stephen was a part of that, and I also have Scott Garner from Balfour Beatty and Jason Galloway from McAdams with any questions you may have. But our request is to enter into an agreement with Beatty, Balfour Beatty, in the amount of not to exceed $989,500 for the renovation of the amphitheater.
Any questions for Gary or anyone at this time?
Gary, a while back, and because local dollars didn't really have the funding, but is this plan consistent with the plan that you presented to us
yes,
before?
Yes, the design will be based on the conceptual drawing that you have there from the plan that we presented, and that's in the RFQ.
Yeah, well, I just got this right here, and I was looking through their pictures, and it's pretty impressive stuff.
They've done their references, and their reference projects were amazing.
Have they done any work for us in the past?
I don't think, McAdams has done some work for us, not Balfour Beatty.
Mm-hmm.
Balfour Beatty will be the contractor.
Gotcha.
I do have one question. You know, we fixed in front of the amphitheater now with the water and moisture issue. Are they gonna dig that up and put something over it?
No, we'll make sure that it still drains.
Yeah, that was going to be a question.
That's one of our
actually.
must-haves.
Yeah.
We didn't spend that money for it,
Yeah.
for nothing, but.
And they may improve upon it.
Exactly.
Any other questions for Gary?
Mayor, just for clarification, this $989,000, is this a start to finish of this project?
That is the budget number. That is the contract is to build that project within the budget. That's why we went to design build.
And that's all phases of what was presented? Landscaping, reconstruction, seating, sidewalks?
Steps.
So how does that work, Gary? Can you just explain that a little bit as far as the actual, because we didn't go out and ask them to bring us back a figure, right?
No.
We gave them a figure, right? We gave them a figure of $989,500, correct? Hence the reason why there's no quote-unquote really true low bidder. It's now based on qualification. Can you just kind of step through that? Because I think that's a little bit different than what we have done. Not saying we haven't done that in the past, but it's a little unusual and maybe new to some on the council or in the audience as well.
Mr. Mayor, if what I understand your question, the design build process.
Yes.
That's a process, it's a one contract process instead of 2. Mm-hmm. So you don't have a contract with an architect or an engineer and then a contractor. you have one contract with both entities as a team. And the purpose there is, so during design and even through construction, the team, the architect, the engineer, the contractor, work to deliver what the owner is asking for. And in terms of keeping it on budget. I mean, we'd be working with them, we've got a strict budget to deal with. If the contractor starts seeing prices go up, we'll work with them and his team, and we'll say, okay, well, where do we value engineer this down? Because we've got to keep it under this number. And having a team working together makes that a simpler process. If we went with a design bid build process, we'd hire an architect, we'd have a set of plans, we'd have a set of specifications, we'd put it out to bid, and the price would be the price.
Correct. All right. And I guess that may be a question, and maybe Councilman Scott's question, right, is, so we have this amount, but obviously prices could go up. We can't control that. They are going up. Hopefully they'll come down some. But it could potentially come to a point where we would have to change what our design is.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Is that under?
Yes, and Mayor, I have one other question I wanted to ask, and this is probably for the manager, because, again, speaking on behalf of the citizens, they may not understand where these restricted funds come from and how they're restricted, and why this was put off before and why we can move it forward now. Can you explain where this money came from? Mr. Scott?
Thank you for the question. This is a grant from the state. It's a state appropriation that is actually in their budget. We worked with our state representatives to go out and try to receive funding, state funding for several projects. This is just one of them that was awarded. We also have some water and sewer projects that were awarded, about $3 million for that, as well as projects for expansion of the splash pad in East Smithfield and a trail system over there as well. So the money is an appropriation from the state using their dollars. This is not American Rescue Plan funds. This is a state appropriation through their budget, a grant.
And it was my understanding that those dollars were awarded based on projects presented, and this was one project that was presented. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or anything for Gary at this time?
I have just one. It's kind of trivial, but it's been a while since we looked at the plan. What was the rough seating capacity of this?
I think it was roughly 300.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say 25,000.
Oh,
Come on, man.
Similar to what we
$1
had.
million bucks.
Add some zeros.
Yeah, come on.
Seating capacity in that seating area would be similar to what there is now, but there's a mezzanine off the back where you could, potentially put bleachers, or you have
Box
handicap
seats.
seating there. And that kind of thing.
Like grass or something?
It'd probably be either stamped concrete or some sort of hard material for wheelchairs, because that's where the handicap seating will be.
So, Gary, when this is done, is it going to be, will it be built in a way that some small venues can rent out for events?
Yeah, we can rent it out for events, weddings,
Yep.
all sorts of different
I mean, my
concerts,
objective
plays.
was, because it's coming into town where people can see it, and the objective would be, getting people into the town, and that might help improve nightlife in Smithfield downtown. No, that's what I'm saying.
And Gary, just one thing, just to point out, or just for the record, doesn't matter, it doesn't impact anything. But on page 132, when I guess the team was tallying up the RFQ evaluations and qualifications, there's one that was 123, so I guess there were some bonus points, or just someone just couldn't add that day. But it should have been a total of 100. It's 123, but it doesn't impact as far as how everything shook out, as far as who was the most qualified. I didn't see that.
Or not, but I went ahead and put everybody's in there. I noticed that. But
Right. Okay. I just wanted, for the record, I just wanted to say that I don't see where that would impact the outcome of this in any way at all. Okay. All right. Any further comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we approve this request.
second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen, and we look forward to getting to work on it. Monday, all right. And we'll have it ready by ham and yam this weekend? Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to our next business item. Consideration and request for approval to award a bid in the amount of $42,261.48 to Barnes Cleaning Company for janitorial services. Lawrence, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Councilman. On April 5th, we had a janitorial bid for 4 town facilities: Public Works, Public Utilities, Town Hall, and the Police Department. We sent out the bid packages, and out of the bid package, we received 4 companies: Coverall, Barnes Cleaning Company, Commercial Buildings Association, and No Looking Back. Out of the 2 lowest bids that we received was No Looking Back, which was $42,000, and also Barnes was $42,261.48. My recommendation was to go with Barnes because Barnes, they had, even though they were $21.79 a month higher, they had they had 10 years experience, and also they had 4-member cleaning staff opposed to a 2-man cleaning staff. And I thought we got more for the bang for the bucks as far as cleaning up.
Okay. Any questions, anything for Lawrence on that?
Who's doing the cleaning services now?
Coverall is doing the cleaning services now.
Just out of curiosity, what is our current contract amount?
We were paying $33,336 a year for Coverall, and now we're jumping to $8,925.48 difference in total this year because everything is expenses are going up, but that's what we're out of the lowest bidders. I think we got a good price on that.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Okay. It's the pleasure of the board.
I make a motion we approve the janitorial service contract to Barnes Cleaning Company.
Okay. Have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. We'll now move on to our next item is discussion concerning meter reading contract.
Good evening, gentlemen. Currently, as you may be aware, we have a contracted service to read the remaining electric meters in town and virtually all the water meters in town. We were notified in late April per the contract. And in accordance with the contract, they gave us about mid-April, they gave us a 30-day notice that they would terminate service doing this. So as of May 13th, we will be losing that service. I immediately reached out to that company and said, you know, is there any way we could get it to the end of the fiscal year or something that I could bid out and recover, or at least give me a number, a price that I could, because we pay them per read, anything that could work, or that way I could at least discuss it with management and council. The answer I received back was an email saying we're going to stick to our original and we're not going to provide service for whatever reason. This being said, I've looked into it, spoken to the town manager and looked into it, and what I'm looking for tonight is maybe direction and your thoughts, obviously. We've come down to a choice we have to make, and I need some direction. Either we do bid it out and we can go that direction, or we can reestablish what used to be where we had a couple of meter readers in the staff in town, knowing that these positions would eventually, will diminish and eventually go away. We know that. We could hire them, and I would need 2 meter readers. What it came down to, it may be as simple as a mathematical problem, what's cheaper. I looked into it. I reached out last week to get somebody to give me a written bid because everyone was telling me, you know, the price, as everyone is aware, going up of labor and materials and whatnot. Although this is really a service job, it's not really a material job. Their lack of ability to find employees to perform this hindered. I only received one written in an email yesterday morning that they would charge $89 per hour per reader. If you looked, and I think I provided this, and hopefully you all have that, that's a pretty healthy sum to go that way. Now, we could bid it out and put it out, you know, for a more formal. I just need a little more time to do that. But the other option, I think you guys are aware of that, is if you looked at the in-house portion, when we talk about the wages and the benefits, potentially the purchase of 2 vehicles with insurance and fuel, even though fuel prices are going up, it was cheaper. The original, it's cheaper by far compared to $89 per hour per reader. But the original investment in year one is pretty close to what we have budgeted in our utilities line item. But then as years 2 go on, we wouldn't be buying trucks every year. Obviously, we'd only buy vehicles or vans or whatever we can get hold of. And they would go down. And again, in a couple of years, as we reduce, we would offer either for the in-house employee to transfer to another department or whatever we can do. You know, when we hire them, they would be aware that it is probably a short term being 2 to 3 years. But I do need meter readers, and I do need them on the 16th of May. So that's why, you know, I'm a little, obviously I'm scurrying and I'm trampling around. I'll do whatever you guys want me to. I think just based on the very simple breakdown, it was just cheaper to try and hire from personnel. Right now, the contracted service has 2 meter readers, and they do work pretty much 40 hours a week. One of those gentlemen has indicated his interest to potentially become a town employee. The other one is not. He's put in 41 years and he's ready to be done. And I don't blame him. I wish him well. But there are others we could reach out to because other communities are like us. They're reducing in the workforce. They're people who are experienced in this particular service. I know there's a couple out there that we can, behind the scenes, at least reach out to, and they could hopefully apply. But that's kind of where I am, and I was happy to run through anything with you and answer questions, and hopefully you guys can let me know what your pleasure is.
All right. Anything, questions? Ted or the manager?
Mayor, we discussed this briefly in our other reconvened session. And as council is aware, I brought this up a while back because of our smart meters. We're eventually going to go away from a meter reader. But I understand the importance of our infrastructure continuing to be upgraded. I'm just concerned that we have to buy new equipment, trucks. I mean, I thought we had something here that we could use.
I thought we had one.
We have a couple of vehicles that we can get started with, but I don't think that's going to work. They use the 2 existing vehicles, which are already being used for other applications for 2 to 3 years. So we have enough to get started, but the reality is, I want to make sure you have the reality, is we're going to have to purchase vehicles, whether they're new or used. You're going to have something for them to drive outside of what we currently have, you know, probably within 6 months or so. So the quote that you have in front of you is one that the police chief was able to come up with from state bid, and that's about as cheap as you were going to find. I looked at some different vehicles, cars, trucks, vans that were like 2019 models, and they were still more expensive than what these state bid trucks are. So that's what's in front of you as an example of what we could do. And I think anyone who's trying to purchase vehicles this day would say that's a pretty good deal.
So just so I understand, we're looking at hiring 2 people, is that?
Yes, sir.
What's the total cost of the town?
I think the total cost for 2 readers, including vehicle and everything, in the first year was just under 150. I think I wrote it down as 148,653.
And how much were you paying in comparison?
We were paying them 165 per read, and that was about, was it 15 or so a month? It had started to reduce. I think originally we had budgeted 155 this year. But we were reducing, which I think may have been the unintended
So it's
reason.
really a wash, kind of, we'd be spending the money to pay.
But budgetarily, it may be, it's a little,
I know it's harder on you personally.
no, it's difficult because the whole purpose of the project was to reduce the meter reading. So, and it will in the long term, but I think this is a bump we got to get over.
So according to this, the first draft proposal was $144,200 for this coming year, and you've got that it's with the 2 of them would be 148. So that's like $4,000 difference.
Right, it's in the same,
For this year, but then next year it would reduce considerably.
yes, sir.
So it's like I said, it's, for all practical purposes, it's a wash. Although the town manager would have to come up with the $4,000 wash, but I know he pinches pennies, so I know he cares about the $4,000.
That depends on when the vehicles come in.
I was just saying, it's not a straight, everybody hears that big number, 100, and they go, oh my God, when it's coming, it's just something we're doing.
This is money that's going to be spent one way or the other.
Yeah.
Whether there are employees or we're contracting it out. Over the period of 2 years, it's going to be cheaper to hire the employees and outfit them ourselves. And you also have the ability then, the reality is we're cutting down continuously on how many meters are read as we add these smart meters to our water systems. And we can't continually trust a contractor not to come in and say, okay, in 30 days, we're walking away and you're on your own, and we're having to revisit this issue over and over again for the next 3 years. So by hiring our own employees, we feel like we are creating a more stable environment for our customers and our staff as well, because finances, it's a big deal for these meters to be read properly and to even know where they're at, find them. You can't bring in people off the street and expect them to go around and read all these meters at the same time period that these people read them now that have been doing it time and time again, month after month after month for the last few years. So it's a real advantage to have at least one guy who can come in and maybe train a second guy that's already been doing it, and it can be a little bit seamless. We're very fortunate to have that opportunity and with such short window of time available to us.
I move we approve with those, no more discussion.
Second. Motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion on this one? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to the next item. Mr. Manager, I guess this is just a placeholder if we wanted to discuss the budget any further. It's about 10 minutes to 9. Based off of our last budget session, I'm thinking the council doesn't want to move forward with discussing the budget at this time, but do you want to try to come up with a date that we could recess to, or?
That would be very important to know when we're going to have our next meeting.
Okay. You guys want to, try to get together this week or definitely maybe possibly next week? What are your thoughts? Next meeting.
Mayor, next week will work for me as well, besides Monday or Friday.
Monday or Friday, okay. Anybody else have any conflicts next week?
Mr. Mayor, unfortunately, I don't have my calendar with me. I left my phone at home. I apologize, but I have no idea about my availability. I just,
You want to send a doodle poll out tomorrow?
that would be great if you could do that.
But we have to recess to a date
Yeah,
certain.
yeah,
I see.
yeah. I'm thinking maybe next Tuesday night. At 6:30. Anybody have any issue with that? I mean, you can check and, I mean, you know, if you do, let us
In
know.
the season, softball is kicking in, everybody. Maybe it'll rain.
Roger, can you do Tuesday night?
Yeah, I can do, yes, sir.
Okay, so let's, I'm thinking Tuesday at 6:30. That's, looking at everybody? Okay. All right, so we'll plan to recess to Tuesday at 6:30. Okay. All right, we'll move on now to council members' comments. Anybody have any comments?
Mr. Mayor, I have a few comments. I'd like to say thank you to our fire department. As many of you know, I'm a state education consultant for North Carolina, and I'm in charge of certain programs. And part of that is a student organization called Skills USA, which if the old days used to be VICA, Vocational Industrial Clubs of America. And we have lots of opportunities for our high school students to learn, to demonstrate their skills, such as carpentry, masonry, electrical trades. And we also have public safety. We have firefighter, EMT, law enforcement. And we needed some assistance this year in our firefighter program. And our fire chief was gracious enough to come and stay with us for Wednesday night, help do some interviewing of some of our, matter of fact, we used his questions that he used on his last application with our firefighters. And we also, the assistant fire chief, Jeremy Daltrey, took our list of contest skills that we're doing and went through all of it and got in some guys and they actually went through and did the timing and all for us. So it was a great support. The program went off without a hitch. Don't you think so, Chief Brown? It went off great. It was a great opportunity, and Smithfield stood out in the effort that we did. And matter of fact, Johnston County, my son who's at Clayton High School, actually his student won first place in the state in firefighting and will go to Atlanta to represent. So, and they will be well prepared because of the work that the town of Smithfield did. So I just want to say thank you. But you know what? I know that not just the fire department, any of our town departments will help us do anything that we need to do because we're a town. Like I said, we're not a city, we're a town, and we all work together. So I just want to say thank you. I appreciate what you guys do, and we're looking forward to next year.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Councilman Barber. Anyone else?
Mayor, I have one comment I'd like to state. Just in regards to our next council session, next month, we won't meet before then publicly besides our budget. I just want to remember Memorial Day on May 30th as thank our veterans, the ones that give all, and support the families of those that, for our freedom that we're very appreciative of. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'd just like to say thank you again to Shannon for all the hard work that she does for the town.
Absolutely.
And all our departments, but especially this week, Shannon.
Absolutely. Ham and Yam is this weekend, so I encourage everybody to come out to Ham and Yam. Are we having a booth out there? Do we have anything? Okay, so town will have a booth out there, so I encourage everyone to attend. Knock on wood. Hopefully, weather will hold off. Sarah, it's looking a little iffy at the moment, but you never know what it's going to be in a couple of days. So it'll be good to at least be able to have that back on this year. And I know there's been a lot of people talking about it, so we're looking forward to it this year, and hopefully it'll be very well attended. But to the town staff, I know that's a lot of work, Sarah, to your staff, i.e. you. I know it's a lot of work, but to town staff also know it's a lot of work to prepare for that and to clean up for it and try to keep everyone safe. But looking forward to some exciting times this weekend. So thanks in advance to the department heads and all the department and staff and Sarah for the work this weekend. And that's all that I have. Again, Mr. Manager, I'll turn it over to you for your report, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like
yes,
to
sir.
say something, please.
Yep, sorry.
I want to wait till
Councilman
everybody's
Stevens.
finished. Today's my last day on council, and I don't do very well at this shit right here. thanks to everybody here for all you guys do. Somebody said to me several times, you know, council wants you to do this, you do that, and they were talking about other councils, and Mickey and Wingate talking about criticism, and that's all we get. But there's a lot of people in here with big hearts that deal with that in a way to make this town great. It starts with the council, but it really doesn't. We get our information from the town manager and Shannon. And a good town starts there, point blank, period. If you don't have a good town manager, good clerk, good mayor, council can't do anything because there's no leadership. And the one reason that made me say, hey, I can step away or want to step away is because of that leadership. And without that, we wouldn't be in the financial situation we are and the opportunity to grow probably more so than any other town in North Carolina, as far as I'm concerned. And we have Mark Lane and Sonny Howard who come every month religiously, regardless of whether we want them to or not. Mickey and Wingate and come every time, and, you know, they get the criticism too. But, you know, they do a fair job. And until you sit here, you don't know that. And it's, you know, that's why I hope Mark Lane wins his school board, because sometimes I want you to see what you're biting off, get what you get. It's fun, though, and it's interesting, and you learn what really goes on behind the scenes and what really makes things tick. And I'm proud of this town. I came in here with a little bit of, I guess, piss and vinegar. We're going to straighten this thing out. What I didn't already know is we were going in the right direction the whole time when I got here, and it's continued the same way. And my hope is that it'll continue that way until, well, for a long time to come, and it looks like it is. But as everybody keeps the focus on Smithfield, that's why we're here, and the citizens within it, and doing what's right for them. But you guys on the board make this a real easy job. I hate to say that, but it's true. What we do, we're given information, and we have to discern it, but it's good information. And there's never been any, hey, I'm hiding this or that. It's all been, here it is, transparency at the best. And I'm proud to call Smithfield home. And thank you for everything you guys do for the town. And it's been a pleasure. And I did not write a single letter down, a word. So, thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Stevens, absolutely, for those words, and thank you for your service, but hopefully you'll be here next month, right? So, all right, so we'll be able to send our proper goodbyes, though, you know. It may be a brief at that time, but thank you for your service, everything you've done, because, as you said, your heart's in the right place every time we've discussed things, right? It's always what's best for town of Smithfield. That's what you're looking for. So outstanding. So thank you. Any other comments from the council? Okay. Thank you. Okay.
My time?
Yes, Tom, sir.
All right, thank you. Hopefully, we can create a bunch of old business and keep you here at least this late next month, too. So.
We won't let the mayor pro tem run that meeting. We'll catch you on that way out.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to acknowledge that we had our litter sweep on Saturday, April 23rd. We had over 50 volunteers from the community show up, help out all districts in town. It was a great event. I want to thank all of them, make sure they're noticed for the hard work that they did throughout that day. Also want to mention that Captain Ryan Shepard with the Police Department is announced his retirement. It's going to be effective before our next meeting on June 2nd. He's a 23-year veteran of the Police Department, and he is retiring to spend more time with his family, especially those in Michigan that are growing elderly and have some health problems. So keep him in your prayers and thank him if you see him for his service the last 23 years. Want to draw the community's attention to tomorrow evening between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. We are going to have a planned power outage along the South 301 corridor where we're replacing some utility poles. All the customers that are affected have been personally notified, so they are aware of it. It shouldn't affect anything specifically, and we're trying to do that in the nighttime hours. Other than them waking up in the morning and their alarm clock's not being set, everything should go along as planned. Also, the next day, May 5th, would actually be that next morning, the water plant is going to experience a shutdown, and that plant's going to be shut down at 4 o'clock in the morning for about 12 to 14 hours as we cut over to some of the new pieces of the plant that we've been installing for some time. We will have all of our reservoirs full, all of our tanks will be full, and there shouldn't be anyone experiencing any problems with that. There should be plenty of water for everyone, and there should be plenty of pressure for everyone. So most likely, no one will even notice that it's going on, but we want to bring that to everyone's attention as well as the council's. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, there's no further business. We do need to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, Section A3, to consult with the town attorney. Do I have a motion to go into closed session per that statute?
Mayor.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, we'll go to the conference room, gentlemen. We'll go into closed session at this time.